regular meeting with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. If you'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move to item 3 on the agenda, which is the opportunity for anybody to speak to the council that wishes to do so under public comments and audience to visitors. This is subject to a couple of ordinances which are on the counter up here by the flower arrangement. Does anybody like to speak to the council tonight? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, our consent agenda, which consists of items A, B, C, D, with 2 sub-items on D. So anyone from the council want any of these items, A through D, or a sub-item voted upon separately and removed from the consent agenda? Anybody in the audience want any of these items voted upon separately? Okay, hearing no objections or requests, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussions on or questions on any of these items? A through G. Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 5A under new business. I asked Tim Stotler, who's our coach director, to be here tonight. He is super excited about speaking to the council on all these items. Right, Tim?
Right.
Cody, I think you and Wendy were instrumental in drafting these ordinances, so why don't you come up and let's just walk through each of these, and then Tim's available for questions, not on content, but maybe on background of it or something like that, as they may have some questions.
Yeah, so the first one, 2190 in your packet, you'll see a red line version of basically what exists now. The red line, of course, underlined text is what's being added. Again, the purpose here is twofold. On the hard surface to accessory structures, so think of a detached garage. In most cases, obviously depending on when it was built, it's likely that the driveway is a hard surface. And so when we're asking somebody to provide a hard surface to a accessory structure as well, so they don't have 2 different pavement types in their driveway. Another reason that Tim has spoke to me about is the fact that depending on location, of course gravel can spill out into the street, can spill out into the storm sewer, so it's a bit preventative in that nature as well. But the overall goal here is that we just have a consistent surface for either the actual home structure itself or any accessory structures on a piece of property. We already require hard surfaces to the house, so again, it's just trying to create a level of consistency there.
And this is strictly new, not
That's correct.
retroing.
That's correct, yeah.
It's the entire length of the driveway, right? I mean, you can't just do like a 20-foot apron or something.
I believe that's correct. It's gotta be the full length, yes. Obviously in town, generally speaking, lots are smaller, so it wouldn't be a stretch, generally speaking. I'm sure there's occasions, but
Let's suppose, and I'm just trying to think of all angles here. Let's say me or whoever else builds a 2-car garage aside, but it branches off of the driveway from where the driveway meets the street. Are we saying that that branch off the driveway that goes to the structure has to be a hard surface? In other words, not rock?
Correct.
Again, it's just that consistency factor, aesthetic factor, if you will. Obviously, it's good for you, but what about the next owner? I know we can't necessarily project in the future, but it's just trying to create that consistency throughout.
The accessory structure, I mean, I understand it could be a two-car garage, but what if it's a shed out in the side yard?
You're gonna construct a driveway to it.
If you're going to.
Correct.
But you don't have to.
Correct. Yeah, if it's just for your lawnmower, and I don't mean to speak out of turn here, but if it's just for your lawnmower or yard implements or whatever, you would not have to construct a driveway to that. It's only if you're gonna be using it for vehicle access.
I understand the intent, and I like it, but I just, I don't know if that's a step in the right direction or not.
Here's another scenario for you. What if they currently just have gravel going to their garage? And now they're putting in a secondary garage or a building, and they want a driveway to it. It would have to be concrete, even though their existing driveway is gravel.
Yeah, under this language, that's how it'd be. They have their rock base for the concrete. We're trying to keep gravel and rock out of storm sewers and streets.
Could that be mitigated with an apron? In other words, if we required, I don't know what the definition of an apron is, but 20 feet or 15 feet of hard surface, and basically the gravel could be beyond that? Or is it still, in your opinion, it still gets out on the street?
With the street department's seen it out on the street before. The apron itself would be a great idea, you know, so it's not right adjacent to the street, but, we just thought, like I said, for consistency, looks, everything else, concrete would be the way to go, or hard surface would be the way to go, for everything new.
Would tar and chip comply with hard surface?
Asphalt, concrete, tar and chip's really not a hard surface.
Pavers.
Pavers yeah, block pavers.
I'm not sure if this was your question or not, but I'm gonna, if it was the same thing. So if somebody has an existing gravel driveway, the way this is written, that's grandfathered, basically. This speaks to new construction.
Correct.
But if they wanted to build a detached garage, shed, whatever, and have a driveway to it, that would have to be paved, but not the existing driveway? Or are you saying at that point,
Yeah, I don't see how we could go back and make them do their existing driveway, but yeah, anything new.
I see your scenario there. What if their attached garage is on the right side of their house, but they got a lot of property on the left side of their house, and they wanna put a big 3-car RV garage back in the back side of their property on the left side of their house. This one's rock, which then this one's gonna have to be concrete.
Yeah, we just felt like we had to start somewhere.
I get it, I get it.
I'm almost of the opinion that it's almost gonna have to be a case by case. I don't think we can make a hard, fast rule, that's my opinion. Simply because, for instance, and I'm using my property as an example, I've got concrete that goes all the way to my garage doors, and that's a hard surface. But off of that paved surface, concrete surface, if I wanna build a separate detached garage, to me, completely away from the street, I mean, we're talking a lot of money to pave hard surfaces, whether it be asphalt, concrete, pavers, or whatever, if it does not affect the street, the storm sewer, or anything else. And for that reason, I understand, you know, you guys don't have enough to go around, enough people to go around right now. But to me, it's an overburden for the property owner to say this is the way it has to be if you build a structure. That's my opinion.
Could you amend this? Like in your case, you're away from the street.
Right.
Really no, but could you amend it to say any new construction that abuts a current street surface would have to be that? But like he said, if it's at the back of his house already, it's probably not gonna affect rock going out, but somebody with a new driveway would. So maybe you say,
And it's hard to say, yes, this fits into that box, or no, this doesn't fit into that box, based on, and maybe we take a step backwards and say, upon their submission of a site plan or a building permit, application for a building permit, maybe we require a site plan and say, okay, tell me what you're gonna do with the services to get to that new building. Maybe that's the way to go. Because if it's away from the street, doesn't affect anybody, anything, I don't know that it would be wise for us to say that's gotta be concrete, asphalt, or pavers.
Could we pass it as is, and then, like, if, say, if you did what you wanna do, you'd approach the city for a variance on this, against this ordinance, or variance on this ordinance?
Well, I was gonna bring that up too, Jim. The piece that I like the least about this is it section B. Where it reads, new construction, creating private streets, driveways or access ways, serving as access to any residential dwelling. This is all old language up till that point, or accessory structure to residential dwelling within the corporate limits of the city, as opposed to R1 or R2. Where the dwelling, and again, this is the way it reads right now. Where the dwelling is located in excess of 100 feet from the nearest hard surface, street or highway or other governmentally maintained road may be allowed with non-hard road surface material only as a, and this is my problem, special use. Which means people gotta come to the council meeting.
Yeah.
Zoning board first, council, it's an awful lot to put people through. I think the zoning administrator ought to be able to approve these kinds of exceptions. I just think it's a gross use of zoning board time and council time on every. But apparently that's not been a huge issue, because I don't ever recall seeing one, but that popped out to me. I just think we've gotta be more efficient in our administration of that.
And I guess, Jim, that would be my comment to yours. I mean, I like the idea of having to go back, but again, is that putting too much of a burden on the zoning to say, this is the way it needs to be? If you wanna change it, you gotta go through that whole process. I don't know.
I'm kinda like you, Doug, I'm not sold on the idea that we're telling someone they're putting a garage in, that they're gonna have to do the whole thing in concrete, especially if they have a house and all their neighbors don't have concrete or a hard surface currently. You know, it's an older neighborhood. An example, they've got a garage already, but a storm comes through, tears it up. So now they're gonna build a new garage to replace their old garage. They've got a gravel drive, now they've gotta add the cost of doing the concrete. I don't,
Would you have a problem with an apron concept?
that's what I was getting ready to say.
Alright,
I
okay.
like that idea, that will prevent the problem that apparently we're having in some areas to do an apron, and then if they wanna stick with the gravel, I mean, I don't know, I don't like micromanaging too much. I mean, we've gotta have rules and regulations, I get that. To me, this is just going a little too far. Most of your subdivisions, if there's a covenant, the covenants that's there probably says you have to have a hard surface. So we're not gonna be talking about places like Morningside, you know,
Right.
those type subdivisions, but general houses that are throughout the city. I'd say probably a big majority of them don't have concrete drives. So but I could go along with, if they're going to, build a structure, to at least put a concrete or a hard surface apron.
Well, if you're talking about the genesis of this and how it came to be, in the one hand is the aesthetic component, And the other hand is this rock, mud, whatever, that's getting into the street and or if there are storm sewers, it would ultimately get into the storm sewer. I can certainly see that point, but how much of this is aesthetic versus the function of keeping the rocks out?
Going all the way to the garage would basically be aesthetics. The apron, you know, if you took it from the street to the backside of the right of way, that would keep the rock off the road.
Okay. Well, my suggestion is we table this for the moment and do a little bit more research on some specific examples. I'm worried about, and like Doug, I'm looking at my own situation in the past, and this was 25 years ago, granted, but built a detached little 2-car garage, and I put gravel down, but it was, you know, so the street's here, my driveway came up, and then I went off this way. It abutted my driveway, which was concrete, it was existing concrete. And I'm going back in my head, it was a stretch for me to do the project in the first place, and I'm wondering if somebody told me I had to put concrete in, if that would have kept me from building it altogether. But in my situation, I don't ever recall any of that gravel ever making it all the way to the street. You know, it might have ended up on my driveway, and I just swept it back into the gravel, but that's what I'm worried about. It's a little bit aggressive from what we're actually trying to solve. And again, if the neighborhoods want to dictate that kind of development, then they've got the rights to do that in their covenants or homeowners associations or whatever. I'm wondering if there isn't somewhere between where we're at now and what you're proposing that may be a little bit better.
I do think on new residential construction, well, it doesn't have to even be residential, it can be multifamily for that matter. I do feel like that we need to require a hard surface up to and including, you know, the garage, tying into the garage or parking area, whatever. And in the case where that drive abuts a ditch, a right-of-way, a street, and the potential for that rock to get out into the storm sewer or gutter that drains the neighborhood, yeah, I can see that, but I'm kinda like these guys, I'd almost pick an apron, set distance to say this part has gotta be concrete. And aesthetically, yes, I can see it too. We all want our neighborhoods to be as best as they can be, but it would be a burden if I'm building a $50,000 garage, 2 or 3 car garage, and I gotta spend another 30 to get the driveway there. That may put it out of my reach.
If we go down that apron concept, because I do think this needs to be addressed, I get the rock thing, but is there a hard-coded thing you can write into the ordinance, or is that almost inevitably going to be, like Doug said, a case-by-case basis? Like, doesn't it depend on how far it is? Like, using my example, my driveway, if my gravel was probably 20 feet from the street. In essence, I had an apron because it was my driveway. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, as we're contemplating codifying something like that, doesn't that almost necessitate a eyes-on situation, and the permit issuer says this will work or that will work? I think it's gonna be variable. I don't think we can really codify anything other than hard surface will be required to the point, you know, for example, in the, making this up as I go along, obviously, in the code director or his designee's discretion to keep rock and or if it's just a dirt thing, keep mud out of the street, I don't know. How is it possible that we would say, you know, an apron needs to be 10 feet, for example? Well, it depends.
To be consistent though,
That's
I would go with
Yeah,
what you said,
footage.
the right of way, whatever that is, if it's 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever the right of way is, whether there's a sidewalk there or no sidewalk there, whatever the.
So say that again, so I make sure I understand what you're proposing.
So you don't get into the issue of saying, oh, well, he likes you better, so
Right.
he only made you put a 6-foot apron, but doesn't like you, so he made you put a 20-foot apron in, just say, take it to the right of, to the street right of way, which may be different in different parts of the city, but at
Yeah.
least you got a static spot.
From the edge of the
If
street,
the new driveway crosses the right of way, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it has to at some point.
where you're gonna have the edge,
Use my example,
Oh,
it
it's
came
true, it
into my
doesn't.
driveway.
True, it doesn't.
So would I have to have an apron? And I haven't lived there for 20 years, 20 plus years, I'm just saying, that's what keeps coming into my mind,
Right.
is that,
Maybe it needs to be reworded where, you know, it's, you're using that part as your driveway. You know, the right of way, the apron for the new structures, things like that.
That's why I said if you put it in, that it only applies to where you actually will touch.
If it abuts a street or an alley.
Yeah,
Correct.
if it, yeah, comes in contact or crosses or whatever. Because, like you say, the right of way is gonna be different everywhere. Some places it may be 6 feet, other places it may be 25, we don't know.
well, and what about culvert sizes and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff that you need to consider on that? That's why I think it's almost just gotta be a site visit, something, or other, and say, this is what you need in order to comply and keep your rock out on the street. But it's gonna dictate that they put certain size culverts and everything else in, right?
Well, yeah, well, Brian, he goes out on these permits anyway, any kind of new garage, new house, he's out there anyway, so he can look at it and see how much they have to need, but I do like the fact that it just kind of be set for us, where we don't play that, you know, like you, but I don't like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
even if you don't do that, you'll be accused of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's set from the edge of the road, X number of feet in, at least to the property line, or 10 feet, whatever you guys come up with. Yeah.
One issue I see with that though, sometimes the curb and gutter could be right on the property line. So, does that mean somebody would put gravel up to that curb and gutter? Because
Well, that's
they're-
where you'd put a minimum, you know, from the edge of the street in 10 feet, 8 feet, 6, whatever.
Yeah, in my case, I've got the drive, or the end of the pavement, I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac, and I've got a 25-foot easement that goes all the way around that cul-de-sac for ditches, drainage, utilities, whatever. In my case, I would say to the back of that easement line, which would be 25 foot, because that would be, to me, the most aesthetically pleasing. But yet, if I'm entering my driveway and want to go to that detached garage I may want to build someday, it's 125 feet up my drive, just like mine. So, you know, it's almost a case by case thing, really. But and if Brian's out there looking at them anyway, I don't think it would be that much more to come take a look at it. But yeah, I think personally, I think this needs just a little bit of work. I think it's we're headed in the right direction, but I still think it needs a little bit of work, maybe some clarification.
So let's table this for tonight, and then, Tim, I'd like you and Brian and whomever else to bat around some real-life scenarios that you guys have dealt with and try to come up with some, I don't think, it sounds like that the council wants to dictate an entire driveway, be hard surfaced. I think that's a burden that may actually stunt some, development unintentionally, so we'll just bat some stuff around and come up with some different language that we can live with. So we'll move on to item 5B, which is ordinance 3836. This is also tied to 3837. The electrical code regulations and licensing requirements appear twice in our code. Different, they sort of tie together. In some ways, I think they're redundant in spots, but they're just two different sections of the code. We can go through this in detail, but in short, we passed some regulations already recently, and I just don't think they're tenable based on the feedback that we got from some electricians. An example of this would be a large construction project. The way our previously amended code reads is that every worker, if you will, electrical worker on a job has to be licensed by the city. means they have to come in and take the test. That's just simply untenable on a large construction project, namely FedEx or even probably even a large residential build. So I think Tim talked to some of the electrical contractors, and I think this is what this contemplates, is that the contractor themselves has to have a license with the city, in essence, but they are attesting to the work of a journeyman, and agreeing to supervise that as part of their licensing. So, and the other big change is the requirement of, we have a $3,000 bond, which has been years and years and years since we had changed that. I think that was left in the previous revision. I think we also came to the conclusion that that doesn't pay for much in a shoddy job. So Tim talked to some contractors, and specifically Cody talked to IBEW. They recommended $20,000 to $30,000 bond. That's not nearly as expensive apparently as it might sound, going from $3,000 to $20,000. I think that's going from about a $50 cost to $100, based on your research. But I think that covers our constituents a whole lot more if the work isn't performed to standards. So what else that I didn't just mention is?
The only other thing in 36 is that we update from the 2008 code, that was the regulating code, to the 2017 National Electric Code. So again, time to time over the last couple of years, we've slowly adopted new refreshed codes, whether it's building code, plumbing code, or now electrical code. So this is just another refresh on that to try and get up to maybe not current standards, but more current.
I've got a question on 3836.
Yeah.
This is in 1042 subsection A.
Yeah.
How are we going to enforce the last line of A? The owner must reside in the residence for at least 1 year after completion of that electrical work. So basically that's a homeowner doing his own, putting in a plug is what I read here. Then we're gonna force that owner to live there for a year because he did that work? I don't know how I think that's unenforceable.
Yeah, that was a section that was left over copied from ordinance 3837. I don't disagree necessarily.
Yeah, I just think that was, we can't.
What do you think, Tim?
I don't think we
Yeah, I don't know how we would either, to be quite honest. Wendy wanted that language in there.
I get the intent, you
Yeah.
don't wanna have somebody wire something and move out and have, be real
Right.
bad, but.
I think the intent there was, are they really the resident if they do the work and never live there? How we would enforce that, I forget.
Yeah.
There might be a situation where insurance could play a part, and maybe that's some sort of a gotcha statement that insurance would want. I don't know, but
Even so, if I put some new plugs in my kitchen and then my job transfers me to Florida, this will go out the window. Because that's not gonna prevent that person from moving.
absolutely.
This one line.
And this will be more run through the building process, for a new residential permit or something like that. Brian would be out there, he would know, on our application, it would say who the electrician is, if it's theirself,
Yeah.
then we would know it then. It was them, we're just trying to, make people, I shouldn't say make people, trying to prevent people from, just saying, hey, I'm gonna live in this house, wire it all up, and then move on to something else.
No, I understand the intent fully. I'm just saying, that's.
So do you want to strike that, or do you want to leave? I mean, I agree, I don't know how in the world.
And I don't know if it'll ever be an issue, as long as we don't try and enforce it, it won't be an issue. But if that's the case, then why put it in there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I understand what you're saying too, you don't want somebody that's doing a spec or something, to just,
We don't have the benefit of Wendy being here this evening, but my only thought is she had recently spoken to an insurance company about this very issue, because we had a situation where an older home was renovated. The electrician did a poor job, and with the $3,000 bond in place, there was about $7,000 worth of repairs that a new electrician had to come in and make on the home. And so, I don't know the origin of that language specifically, but might have originated out of that conversation that Wendy had had with the insurance company, but yeah, as far as enforcement, I'm not sure how we accomplish that.
Do this and just ask Wendy to look at that when she's back. Just that line, that's the only thing, that's the only strange thing. Other than that, I think it's fine.
Is that bond, does it help with the city?
Yes. Yeah.
So if.
Yeah, it was an issue because the claimant wasn't able to claim the funds,
So if somebody has a problem, they gotta come to the city and try to catch that person's bond.
essentially, yeah.
But bond company did pay out.
They did,
Yes,
okay,
they did.
okay, I hadn't heard that update,
Yes, they did.
okay.
But as you said, it was not near sufficient to cover.
Yeah, it didn't cover
the problem.
half of the issue.
It's twice as expensive to fix as it was to put it in the first place, probably, so,
That bond is not per job, it's just per
per
year.
licensee.
Per licensee, yeah. And the comment that IBEW had made to me on the $20,000 number is they said it was $150, $200 a year for a bond like that, and any electrician that has any ability whatsoever shouldn't have an issue at all covering that bond, because that was my question. $3,000 to 20 sounds like a big jump, and they said, general residential new construction, we require a $30,000 bond at this point, so thinking that most of ours are gonna be, repairs or rewiring like this house was versus new construction. That's why we decided to peel back off of that $30,000 number a little bit, but, he didn't, I asked for his suggestion and he said 20, so that's where that number came from, so.
So if I'm an electrical contractor and I mess up and my bonding company is used, is that per occurrence or
Well,
per job?
I would argue,
Because if I go to another job and do the same thing,
yeah,
I've already busted my bond back here and
Well-
I don't care about this one?
I would argue that we would revoke your license if we ever have to go against that bond.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but again, I don't know what good that does, because if you're working with a revoked license, outside of us finding you, I suppose, that would be the next step, so.
Okay.
Do you know that question? I do know that answer. If they have to make a claim against that bond, does the bond company revoke the bond at that point for that?
I don't know if they revoke the
Insured.
bond, like Cody said, I would think we would revoke the license, so at least the city wouldn't have any liability
Right.
from that point forward.
Right.
And, the goal is always that our residents ask, are you licensed, are you insured, those sorts of things,
And
so.
bonded, yeah.
Because a residential job can require its own performance bond. You hire an electrician, you can require that as the homeowner.
I find this odd, it may be, I'm saying, careful what you wish for, but this is one of the trades, the only one that I'm aware of, that the state doesn't regulate. Plumbing is regulated by the state and whatever, so it's left up to us to put this together. But almost one of those situations I wish the state would regulate them, might be more consistent across the state, but nonetheless.
If we're gonna look in tweaking this back to what you were saying about the one sentence, you have to live in the house for a year. Probably the intent of that is what we were saying, someone buying a house, they're gonna flip it and just saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna move into it, rewire whatever, and then sell it. Do you guys have the capability of, doing any electrical inspections? You're not certified?
Not certified, no. We have some basic electrical knowledge. We've had offers from other electricians that we could call in with questions. I think Brian's been around the business enough to kind of have an idea what's a good job and maybe kind of question it.
Would we be getting into the weeds with this if we could insert something to cover a scenario like that? This guy buys the house, he says, oh, I'm gonna live in it, so he rewires it. You guys have already given him the building permit to do whatever he's doing. And now all of a sudden he puts it up for sale and he's gonna sell it and not live in it. We know that he's rewired that. Could we have written into this ordinance, if that is the case that happens, then it would be required to have a certified electrician take a look at what he did?
Well, let me ask this question. not to muddy the water, do we require a building permit for interior renovations?
That was gonna be my comment on a deal like that, somebody buying a house, flipping it. If they're not basically framing it up, all that kind of stuff, we don't issue permit. We don't have electrical permit either.
So we don't know what's going on, was my point, as far as rewiring.
Right.
Yeah,
Commissioner Stegman, he was changing out his outlets like you referred to earlier, we never know that.
sure.
If I can make a suggestion on that last line there. One, we need to pass these ordinances because of what we've got right now is not working. It's just not tenable, it's not, so.
I think we need to pass both of them subject to,
I'd like Wendy to explain that sentence to us and
Yeah.
get back with us on that.
yeah,
I guess it won't be a problem, at least for a year.
yeah.
But,
So this ordinance is only gonna come into play though on new construction, right? Basically,
yeah,
if it's just a remodel, we don't know anything about that.
Excuse me, order addition, right?
Right.
Garage,
That's
garage,
considered.
yeah.
And that would require a permit?
Yes, anything that would require a permit, this would come into play. So, that being said, let me find my papers. I am going to make the recommendation that we approve ordinance, 3836. Subject to Wendy's opinion of the residency requirement of 1 year.
Second that.
okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay.
And I would also make the recommendation to approve ordinance 3837 as it is written.
I'll second that one as well.
Okay, any separate discussion on this one? I'm kind of talking about both of them in tandem there. Roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, item 5D is proposed ordinance 3839. Cody, just walk us through that.
Yeah, so, in your package, you'll see our existing code on mobile homes, and, as you can see, I don't know what year it was updated, but it was included in the 1977 recodification, so, it's at least 45 years old in its existence. So, lots changed in 45 years, state statutes have been established and amended since then. And so the ordinance in front of you to consider would, repeal and replace the existing ordinance regarding mobile homes. A couple of the provisions that I'll bring your attention to that are, or the core changes. And before I get into that, there are two small tweaks that I missed in the draft copy that's in front of you. On section 2.2, second line, it references a fee of $50. Our current fee is actually $100, so that just needs to read $100 instead of $50. It's the second page, section 2.2, second line of that, or first, in the first sentence of that section. And then the second correction is the next page, 3.5B. It's the second sentence in the B paragraph. It reads, in addition to the title, a copy of an inspection from a state certified inspector. That should read a certified third-party inspector. Many states have gone away from the state certified inspector to third-party companies that do this type of work. So this is contemplating somebody that's bringing one here from maybe a couple states away. And so we just need a report from someone with knowledge of that world. Okay, so back to a couple of the main provisions. The first one is, this would ensure that any mobile home or manufactured home, as it's defined in the ordinance, that's brought into the city is no older than 15 years of age, so everything brought in would have to be 15 years or newer. Secondly,
Moving forward.
yes. Obviously, there's
Correct.
no way to retroactively change that. Secondly, in an instance where there's an abandoned mobile home, there is a state statute now appropriately titled the Abandoned Mobile Home Act, that kind of regulates and gives us the powers to regulate such homes. In the instance where it is abandoned, and we can show that it's a risk to health, life, and safety, we can take actions to correct that, including removal of said mobile home if it's in bad enough shape.
How quickly?
I believe, I don't have
I
that
got it.
statute in front of me, but I believe within 90 days.
I'll tell you
I
just a
know
second.
one street.
30-day period, so there's some qualifiers to that.
Yeah.
First of all, they have to be given a cure period to fix what we, just like anybody else on a property, but if they fail to restore the electric and the water services, to pay all taxes, interest, and penalties within the 30-day period following the notice. Now, this is from the state act, this is not our ordinance. Then the municipality shall obtain title to the motor home and may remove the mobile home and dispose of it unless the municipality determines that it's worthwhile to attempt to sell it at a public auction. So I think the answer is they've got notice for 10 days, if I'm reading this correctly, and then within 30 days, I guess we can act on that if they did not cure that.
So does the judge, or who gives us title to the?
Ultimately, yes. Yeah.
So we would have to
File it.
go there and
Yeah,
and
that's
ask
the case.
for some type of.
It just be clear, it can't just be unsightly, it has to
Yeah.
have lack of electric, lack of water, gas, and then there's a provision in this act that they have to be delinquent on their, what's it called?
Long tax.
I was gonna read how this read. Just saw it. Oh. Definition of abandoned means a mobile home located, and again, this is, for clarity, this is the Abandoned Mobile Home Act, not this ordinance that we're
That's
considering. This ordinance basically aligns us to this, at least updates it from 45 years plus ago, but this is what an abandoned mobile home is defined as. Located inside a mobile home park that has no owner currently residing in the mobile home or authorized tenant of the owner currently residing in the mobile home to the best knowledge of the municipality. Has had its electricity, natural gas, sewer, and water payments declared delinquent by the utility companies that are providing such services, and for which the mobile home privilege tax, that's the term I couldn't think of, imposed under the Mobile Home Local Services Tax Act is delinquent for at least 3 months. So they have to meet all that before it can meet that definition, but once they do, they get 10 days to cure it, and then we can either fix it on our own, whatever if it's just a window that needs boarded up or something, it may be something simple, but if it's like several that we've dealt with in the last couple of years that are probably beyond repair, then this would give us the right to remove it, sell it, whatever,
Sounds,
if they refuse to.
provided you could move it, cause there are some in town, and I'm thinking right now of one street in particular, where there probably are at least 2 or 3. Yeah. Didn't mean to derail us.
Oh, you're good,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. So, again, that was kind of the second main thing that the new ordinance accomplishes. And then the third thing is that we kind of remove the language that the council would have the authority to approve such placement in an R2 district, and we limit the placement of these to the mobile home zoning districts that are spread throughout town. So, again, that's not something that I think is,
I think we've approved one
maybe one.
in the
Yeah.
last 3.5 years,
Yeah.
but I got a few little mixed feelings about this, but I really don't understand why it ever read that way. I think if you're gonna have a mobile home, it needs to be in a zone mobile home district, period.
Yeah.
I just think the one-off exceptions is maybe not the route we ought to be going down.
So Cody, the old ordinance, this chapter 11 mobile homes, was that the old one?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, that's
That's what
the
we have in
existing,
place.
that's all that's existing in the code at present.
So are we still defining the area 1 through 4 as the designated areas, or does that go to?
No, that goes to.
Okay, good.
The way that this reads, Doug, is,
And I presume that was aligned with the mobile home zoning district.
Mhm.
Obviously, if those zoning districts have changed,
Mhm.
this is obsolete anyway,
Mhm.
those sections, or areas 1 through 4.
Mhm.
in 3.1, says any manufactured home installed within corporate limits must be installed in the MH district and meet and comply with all zoning requirements per Title 11, Chapter 7, Article C of this code. And then it goes on to reference this abandoned mobile home act. So,
And there's sense, and the new ordinance also references the Mobile Home Tie-Down Act, that again has been established at the state level since 1977. Again, that's a security thing in the event of bad weather. We don't have anything in the present ordinance. We do mention underpinning, but as far as removing the tongue and those sorts of things, those are all things that we've added as well to make it look like more of a permanent structure. That's all present in the new ordinance. And this does not regulate modular homes. Modular homes are considered more conventional built at this point, and so we're only talking mobile and manufactured homes.
I think this is a step in the right direction. However, I do feel like, for instance, 3.13, temporary living quarters. Motorhomes, travel trailers, camping trailers, commonly referred to as campers, modified buses, semi-trailers, rent vehicles, which is commonly referred to as RVs, or any other type of structure designed for temporary living quarters may not be used within corporate limits for permanent habitation. We do have that going on as well. Do we allow that continually?
No.
Or from this day forward, if this passes, we say you can't do that anymore?
Well, I don't know that that's allowed now. I don't know that this ordinance would dictate that, but I don't think you
I
can't.
think it's allowed now.
No.
Yeah, that's not a change.
We've had one instance where a trailer park wanted to let some RVs come in, folks who were doing some of this electrical work, internet work here in town. We issued a temporary permit. They had a signed agreement. By the end of the year, those people would be gone. But it's not a permanent.
Along Courtney Street, I know there's at least 2 campers that are being lived in, have been for years. Don't mean to get anybody in trouble whatsoever, because that may be the best that they can do. I don't know. But my point going forward, somehow we need to address that. It's a camping trailer and it's got a pipe coming out the bottom and it ties into our sewer. So we might need to look into that. It's between 13 and Williams Trailer Park out there. I don't think it's Williams anymore, but the trailer park to the north, but it's along Courtney. Courtney's the one street just right beside, et cetera.
I'll make myself a note, check into it.
And that's also where those abandoned ones are, but I was thinking of.
Anybody else have any questions? Jim? No?
Nope.
All right, I will move to approve ordinance 3839, repealing and replacing Title 10, Chapter 11 of the Marion City Code regarding the regulation of mobile homes as presented.
I'd second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right. John, do you want to introduce this 6A, or do you
I
want
can.
Brett just to come up to talk about what
Brett
this is?
talked about it, but basically, in a nutshell, what this is we kind of got approached by a company that, and Brent and I have discussed this a couple times, it seems like a no lose for us at all. Basically, what they'll do is they will, in anticipation of rolling blackouts, they're gonna ask some of the bigger users, cities,
Which
municipalities.
hopefully will never come.
Will never happen, of course not. But in case it might, they ask us to pull off the grid and go to a secondary source of power, be that solar, wind, whatever, generators, of which we are already ready for. So it's a no lose for us, and they're gonna pay us to come off the grid, so.
The solar aspect of it, once we do finally get the water and sewer plant on the solar, we'll be taken out of this program probably because we're already off the grid. What they're looking for is just a way to offset anticipated shortfalls in electrical use by just combining a lot of bigger users in a huge area, the Midwest, that will say, hey, if there is a warning, we're gonna have a rolling brownout, we've got this many megawatts of energy we can take off of the grid. These people have agreed to it, they send out a 6-hour notice. They expect us to be off for 4 hours after that 6-hour notice, and they just calculate the energy saved there, and then they pay us to do that, which we have backup power generation. The payments that they'll send for doing that way more than offset the cost of the diesel fuel to run the generators. So we're not out anything at all. And the other side of it is if something is going on that we don't want to participate in that particular brownout, we're under no obligation to do it. We don't have to do it if there's things in the process that could possibly be messed up. So like I said, like John said, it's a no-lose situation to agree to be part of this program.
So we can, I'm sorry.
We have enough generator capacity to support everything we need then.
Yes, both sewer plants and the water plant has full backup power.
And we can pick and choose which facility that we pull out.
We could, yeah, I think it's completely up to us. If the
Okay.
water plant is undergoing something that we just don't feel comfortable taking that offline, which we shouldn't because everything's completely backed up, but we would be able to do that. We could pick and choose, yeah.
Probably do the run of generators anyway, more than here.
Well, and we do run them, from time to time, every 2 weeks, we cycle those on for an hour and make sure they're, doing what they're supposed to do. This would take the place of that. But the warnings coming from MISO, which is the big system operator of the grid in basically the Midwest, I guess. I'm not an expert on any of that, but they're getting more and more concerned as power consumption's going up and they're taking more power off the grid at some point. Something's got to give. So this is a program that's just kind of looking ahead to try to avoid those brownouts. If there are enough people that could either reduce power, a lot of places, maybe Heartland Regional might just turn air conditioners off for 4 hours or something that they can do that doesn't, impede their process or whatever they're trying to do. In our case, we can pretty much just go completely offline.
Okay. I make a motion then that we approve the contract with Voltus as presented.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay?
Mayor Absher.
Yay. You want to talk about it? You want Brent to talk about item 6B?
You're up there.
Yeah,
Okay, Brent, you're up again.
This is something that came up kind of, I guess, last minute. We, doing the work on the new city hall, the water and sewer were stubbed outside of the building, and we had tentatively agreed early on to take that to get it to the proper location, to tie the water back in on the inside, and to take the sewer to the line that we ran up the alley, Print Alley over there. Well, come to find out, they've stubbed the sanitary sewer line out about 11 feet deep underneath the footing of that building because we've added some bathrooms in the basement and some things like that. So, with that being the case, our department wouldn't be able to do a dig that deep, one, and two, the line in the alley isn't that deep anyway. The line on Union Street is deep enough to take that sanitary sewer lateral. This work that we have bids for tonight, basically run a brand new city main to replace the one that's up that alley. It'll be at the depth where we can receive the sanitary sewer line coming from the new city hall, and then that will be tied back in, and all the other businesses will be tied back in as they come up through the alley. The two bids we have on this, was Scuda Construction for $40,030, if I'm seeing that right. And we had one from Scott SQ, Construction for $47,800. All the line items here, the bid items were identical. The lower bid was Scuda Construction to do that work. Obviously we've done work with Kevin, so he would be more than capable to do it, and I believe he can get on it fairly quickly, because I guess there's an urgent time frame for getting all that stuff done. It's pretty similar to some other things that have come up around the square where we've had insufficient sewer, we've had to go up some of the alleyways to get a business hooked on properly. This just happens to be the city hall, but I envision it probably not being the last thing we have to replace around the old city square.
How old is this line?
Oh gosh, it could be close to 100 years old, really. There's no way to know that for sure, but some of the lines around the square and the surrounding area are pretty old. We've got 100-year-old sewer maps that have existing sewer on them, so there's some of them are fairly old.
So does that, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Does that run down Print Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
gravity feed into the storm, or sanitary on Union?
Union Street, yeah.
And then we will take it from New City Hall, tied into the one on Print,
Yes, yeah,
and it will go into Union.
yes.
Likewise, Hill Printing and some of those other businesses up and down through there will also need to be tied onto that.
Yeah, they will, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be an improvement to that line.
Yeah.
There are some issues with that line. Maybe it's breaking down underneath it. We don't have a real good idea, but we can't rod that line as far as we used to. There's no sanitary manhole at the dead end. We will replace that, and we'll have a sanitary manhole to make it more of a complete sewer line.
I was gonna say, you got one figured in here in the
Yeah, yeah.
specs anyway, so yeah, that's a good idea. 4-inch large enough for City Hall?
That's what they brought out of the building.
Really?
I would say it is. It's not a huge amount of flow, I guess, coming out of there, like a
Yeah.
kitchen or something like that would be, but
Yeah.
that was what they brought out, stuck out under the building, so that's what we'll connect onto.
Alright,
It'll be an 8-inch sanitary running down the alley, but
down Print.
Alright, I'm making a motion to approve the replacement of sewer main on the Print Avenue using hub tip funds.
I'd second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay.
You can.
Okay.
I'll make the motion if you want.
Okay, item 7A, I'll just tell you, nothing earth shattering here, but we had, I think last meeting passed an intergovernmental agreement with Williamson County Special Education District to provide their request to provide them with a school security officer. That agreement had some updated language in it that Wendy put together as it pertained to the definitions of a school service security officer. And the school district, which is a member, Unit 2 is a member of the Williamson County Special Education District, questioned whether their existing agreement needed to reflect those same definitions, which we agreed probably it did. So they asked for that to be synonymous with the other agreement that we passed. And I think maybe they asked for a little bit, on section 6, it just came up, not that they were anticipating it, but if budget restraints dictated and they needed to change how many officers were deployed and such, we just asked them if they would let us know by April 1st. The reason that's in there just for the next budget year, so that we could plan, they could plan. But that's kind of the background of this. And I think the school district's already passed this, by the way. Did you see that in there? Maybe I'm thinking Williams County Special Ed, then, I'm not sure. Need a motion before we discuss it.
I'd make a motion that we would approve the amended intergovernmental cooperation agreement between Marion Unit 2 School District and the City of Marion regarding provisions of school security officers.
Second that.
Any questions? Chief, did you have anything else on that? Did I miss anything there? I was sort of tangent to that conversation with the school district.
No, the biggest thing was, some wording and definitions of the school officer, so no, you covered it, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8A, this one's hopefully more straightforward than the rest of these have been tonight. This is a residential TIF 1 redevelopment agreement with Lane Erectors. They're looking to build, I believe, 3 single-family homes on Taft Street. So this is just a pretty standard TIF redevelopment agreement. And again, I like to see new development in these old areas, and it seems to be working well. So that will be my motion to approve ordinance 3838, residential TIF 1 redevelopment agreement with Lane Erectors, Inc. Again, that's on North Taft Street.
I'll second.
Any questions on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. 9A, under Public Affairs, you see in your packet, this is something that the pavilion had asked to be budgeted. I think since I've been here anyway, we finally got it line itemed into this year's budget. Unfortunately, like lots of other stuff, the bids have gone up since the last time we looked at this. This is the foldable partitions that make the, what do you call it, not the big room, but the
Meeting rooms.
meeting rooms there, can divide them up. I guess those are original to the building too, I believe. And the stuff's just wearing out. And so these are the carpeted panels that are there. This is about $5,000 over the budget line that we had entered, but if you remember in the last meeting or two, we approved for the flooring to be done in the bathrooms, and that came significantly under the budget line that we had entered. So those two combined are still well within our budget and needs to be done. So that's my motion to approve the quote from Ravensburg for $27,447.00 to replace partition wall coverings at the pavilion, a budgeted item.
I would second that.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 10, Commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Webb tonight.
Yeah, we just finished the sidewalk on Washington Street. Crews did well on that. Appreciate their hard work. We just printed and repainted, refreshed the Wildcat paw prints in preparation for homecoming later this week. So it's looking good. Cleaning ditches and box culverts throughout the town. Also, we are reinstalling the plaques that are around the square that was disturbed for construction, so getting started on that. So, as far as the cemetery goes, in September we had 11 burials. Everything's looking good out there. So that's all I have.
Mr. Steckman?
Since last report, water department is 7 new service taps, 5 water leaks repaired, 7 meter pits were repaired. If you've traveled east anytime recently, you know that the water tower is going up. The construction is going well. Next few days, they'll start painting that water tower from that lovely green to a nice white. And they'll also put our Marion logo on it while it's down on the ground. Once they've got all that done, they lift that up and it'll be all finished. So hopefully, what do you think, probably next 2 weeks that'll be completed, I would say, something like that. That's all I have today.
Brent's raising his eyebrows at you. I'm not sure. He agrees.
2 weeks?
Well, it's already white. so
It is
they're-
white.
It is white now? Okay, I've been 2 days, sorry.
Yeah.
They won't paint the inside of the tank, I guess, until it's up, but,
Okay.
yeah. Well, let's hope for 2 weeks.
When we put water in it, maybe first of the year or something, or?
I'd say this fall. I'm not sure about the exact timeline, but.
We gotta fill it so we can get the fountains going. There's a direct line right to those fountains
How
from the
many,
new tower.
how many gallons is that new tank hold?
That's 500, I believe,
Half a million.
500,000.
What is the tank out by Love's Truck Stop?
I believe it's half a million.
They're all
About the
5,000.
same size.
Is that it?
That's it?
Wow.
Yeah.
No trivia?
Not
That's
tonight.
it?
No, too early.
Okay. That was brimming with
I
anticipation.
never know when you're gonna be excited or not.
Depends
Sometimes
on
on the
the
second meeting, you kinda look, oh, that's trivia.
I just don't know where you come up with this stuff. That's all I have to start.
Talk to that man right there. He's down in the archives. Between meetings, he spends 20, 30 days down there in the sub-basement finding this
I
stuff.
wondered where he went. Okay, Commissioner Bowe.
I have a report from the fire department for the month of September. We had 10 100 series fire calls. We had 8 rescue and EMS calls, 7 hazardous conditions with no fire, 14 service calls, 9 good intent calls, 24 activated alarms for a total of 72. They completed 49 annual safety inspections. And that's all I have for the fire department. Marion Police Department, for the month of September, we had 82 city ordinance violations, 274 criminal traffic citations, 31 warrant arrests, 329 incidents reported, 137 traffic accidents, and 4 DUI arrests. There were 1,938 dispatched calls, 1,844 911 calls, 4,355 non-emergency calls, and 272 ambulance calls. The Marion Police Department Narcotics Unit for September, we had a total of 94 citations issued, 37 arrests were made, 14.6 pounds of cannabis was seized, 135.3 grams of methamphetamines were seized, 90 grams of a controlled substance, 78 grams of heroin seized, 19 grams of cocaine seized, 7.5 grams of crack cocaine, 3 arrests for production of cannabis plants, 1 unlawful use of weapon by a felon, 1 vehicle seizure, $586 of U.S. currency was seized. We had 5 controlled purchases and 5 search warrants. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Patton.
I don't have anything from the treasurer's office.
Okay, I don't have a report. Anything else to come before the council in miscellaneous, number 11? Chief?
I just want to remind everyone that the 6th annual Spooktacular is quickly approaching. It is Saturday, October 29th at Rittenone Park. It will begin at 5 p.m. and go till 8 p.m. This is a really nice event for families and kids, and we are still looking for any businesses or individuals that would like to have a trunk and come out and hand out candy to the children. So either contact us at the PD or go to our Facebook page where you can register. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else to come before the council?
Can I go next? I just wanted to say, last Saturday, we had our electronic recycling event over at the training center. It was a very good event, once again, 7 years we've been doing this. And we had cars lined up almost to Taco John's, as you know, from what our police officers.
Yeah, you did.
Tell us about. We want to definitely say thank you to the citizens and their patience of coming out and supporting all the, the good cause. They were there like at 7:30 in the morning, waiting, for us to get there. I want to thank the Marion High School, their Wembley and the basketball team, the football team for coming out and helping us with all the volunteerism, and the police department for helping to keep the crowd down and all that. So it was great. We filled up a whole semi-trailer and a half, and so it was great. After 7 years, we thought we'd have nothing left. But, so I just wanted to give that update.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, do not have a need for closed or executive session unless one of you do?
Nope.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd make a motion that we would adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yeah.
Mayor Absher?
Yay, thank you all.